Okay. Hello again. How many of you have seen Saturday Night? How many of you know tonight is Saturday night? Everybody knows this. Anyway, what a great movie Saturday Night is. Of course, it's the very first episode of the show. It's the 90 minutes leading up to that, so that the film ends with live, it's Saturday night. What a story, you know, an origin story, a great comedy, and it really details all of these incredible things that happened to get this show on the air, a revolutionary show, as it was at the time for NBC. And Jason Reitman is the writer, director, and producer who co-wrote it with Gil Kennan. And it's really a fun ride, to be sure, but really an eye-opening one. I didn't know a lot about this. And it is scored by the multiple Grammy and Oscar-winning composer Jon Batiste, who not only does this score and in a very unusual way, one of the most unusual ways I've ever heard a movie scored, and that we're going to be talking about that with him and Jason, but also plays Billy Preston, who was the first musical guest on Saturday Night Live. So he has a role in it as well. Before I bring them out, I want to show a clip from Saturday Night. It's actually a featurette that talks about the musical aspects of this. So let's roll that.
Yeah, that's two. We're doing something that's not the typical process.
Every day we'd wrap around 5 or 6 p.m. and then we'd start recording. And we recorded the entire score live on set, in real time. Not ideas that he had pre-worked out. The more he would point at one instrument, then he'd point at another instrument, tell them what to do, hit this note, play this rhythm. Okay, now you stop, come in here. And I watched him create in real time.
All right, everyone, we're moving to Weekend Update.
I could show him a scene, and he'd go, I know what to do with that.
It's Saturday Night Live, and we scoring live. The music has a real goal of not only being theme-oriented, but representing the building of this show that's on the edge of falling apart at every second just before it goes on the air. I wanted to almost have a motley crew of instruments and styles and genres.
He's touched by God in a way that is really hard to explain.
Please welcome writer, director, producer Jason Reitman and composer and actor Jon Batiste. All right. Wow. That's a really interesting kind of process. So many of the ways you made this movie, Jason, are different and lively because you're trying to keep the energy of what probably happened on those 90 minutes leading up to it. And this movie demonstrates that in all its manic energy and everything else that was going on, including the way the music was done.
Yeah, I mean, of all, and this was easily the most joyful film I've ever made. Hardest film I've ever made, but also the most joyful. And what we were trying to do in every aspect is capture what it's like at SNL, where they start on a Tuesday with nothing, and by Saturday they have a finished show. What does creativity feel like, you know, in real time? And we're balancing that with having choreographed the entire film, you know, months before we started shooting.
Which is amazing. And just to keep that up with a cast of over 80 speaking roles that you had in this, which is enormous.
Yeah, they almost work every single day. You know, there was days where Steve Morrow, our production sound mixer, had 58 mics going simultaneously, because It's not about the foreground. Yeah, it's not about just the dialogue that's happening in front of the camera. It's creating a soundscape so you feel like you're always really there. And it's easy to talk about this like it's like a circus trick. But really what Gil Kennan, my writing partner, and I were most proud of is that, you know, we approach this with thinking, you know, there's 30 main characters in this film, and we all know the end.
Right.
You know, Titanic goes down and SNL goes on the air. And so our goal was, you know, you're going to meet 30 main characters over the course of this film, and you're slowly going to get to know all of them. And if you care about them, in the moments before they go live, and you feel the tension, and you're actually worried about whether this is going to happen or not, then we knew we would have succeeded.
This is not just a comedy, and it's a very funny one, but it's a suspense thriller. Because of the way you've done this with the countdown clock, we're following it along, supposedly in real time. I even heard you back-numbered the pages of the script. Did you?
We numbered the pages backwards. So when you opened up our screenplay for this movie, the first page was page 100, and the second page was 99, and then 98 and 97, and we got a lot of calls being like, I think the script, the PDF is wrong, and it's like, no, just go, it's fun. And then it's cool though, because like in the last 10 pages, they're like, oh my God, it's happening. You just knew, and we knew that was what was going to make this work, is if you felt the clock, and apparently we did, because when we screened the movie for the first time, one of the notes we got was, well, there's a clock in the room and it says 10:51, but we all know it's 10:53. And people were so hyper aware of what time it was that the only visual effect, like only CG in the movie, is we had to move the minute hand on the clock in the scenes like by minutes at a time sometimes, because people were like, sorry, it's not 11:01, it's 11:02. They just said it.
That's amazing. Also, you have all these incredible, if you haven't seen this movie, you have to see it, because all this incredible stuff that went on, it didn't all happen in those 90 minutes. You did condense some of it to get it all in the movie. But did you have the full cooperation of Lorne Michaels and Saturday and NBC and everybody to do this movie?
Yeah, the first person we ever spoke to was Lorne, and we pitched him the idea. And I think the moment he realized that, okay, we're not doing a biopic about Saturday Night Live, we're talking about what it feels like in the 90 minutes leading to go live, and particularly what it was like that first time, and what was it like for all these characters. And he loved the idea, he gave us his blessing, and at that point, Gil and I interviewed every living person that was in the building on October 11th, 1975, and as you might imagine, none of their stories added up. And so we're weaving together like myth and legend and truth just to capture, again, what it feels like. It's supposed to be a real-time movie about being dropped into the building so that you can feel like you're part of the cast and crew all the way up to the last second.
And speaking of the cast and crew, I've got a member of the cast and the crew sitting next to you, Mr. Jon Batiste, who plays Billy Preston, the first musical guest ever on Saturday Night Live. That had to be fun to do Billy Preston, and you're really fun doing that in the movie.
Yeah, Billy stands up and plays the clavinet, which I totally would never do. The clavinet is so low, and he's dancing, and he's got his hair, and it's going, and it's happening, and he's singing. And we were shooting that live, and I was like, man, this is treacherous. But it was really beautiful. I enjoyed it. I've studied Billy Preston just because, that's a lineage of music I really care about. And you always embody musicians when you study them. It's like if you study someone, you start to look at the videos and the interviews and watch when they perform, and then you start to try to see, well, maybe I could sound like that if I do a little. So I had already kind of had...
Does changing your physicality make you sound like the artist you're trying to emulate?
Definitely. You'll never sound like it, but you sound closer to what they're doing. You look at people's hand position on the instrument. Billy Preston has a certain position. He has a certain way he holds his head when he sings. Same with anyone has a distinct sound, like the Loneliest Monk, or anybody who plays the piano especially. Because it's really, it's a block of wood and metal and hammers. How does it sound different in everybody's hands?
Right.
So, yeah, it's beautiful.
It's amazing. And this was, as you have said in that little featurette, I don't know of many movies where I've heard this done, where you as the composer are actually playing live during the making of the movie, which sounds terribly complicated to me. Was it?
It's fun. Yeah. We had the conversation, the first conversation we had, and then many conversations after that. It became very clear to me, and in some way, shape, or form, it was not going to be a traditional score. Yeah. It was the anti-score. The first decision that we made, actually, was that we would throw away the orchestra. It would not be an orchestral score. And
we started to talk about what the music represents, and it really is the villain in the film.
Yeah.
The music is an allegory for the clock, and the clock is the pressure of time. And pressure of time is the failure of success. And that's the feeling that Jason mentioned at first. Don't ever make it feel like it's resolved. We know how it's going to end. We know that there's great success. It shouldn't ever feel like there's a moment of resolution, even by the end. Wow. And figuring out how to do that is like drunken master style. It's like, how do you make something that's not with the orchestra, that's broken, but fits and is cohesive over the course of a film? And sometimes it's sound design, sometimes it's sound effects, sometimes it's score, sometimes it's meant to crash into the dialogue and into the scene as a character. So it really is the score, conceptualizing it was the first part of the battle. Then once we conceptualized it, the reality of it came to me as like, oh, if we capture it in the room where everything is happening, in the room where it happens, and if we get the energy of the space and the pressure of time on the musicians, who did an incredible job, because we came back after dinner, I'd get out of the Billy Preston wig, and everybody would come back, and Jason and I would
Everybody stay, too. The entire cast and crew every night would stay because they knew they were about to get a free concert.
It was like the second shift.
Yeah.
You know, and we'd come back after dinner, and we'd be on the set, and the film is not cut. We'd have a discussion. We'd watch a few clips that the incredible editing team put together, and I would just let the moment, it had some sort of transmission that would happen, and then I would go immediately to the band. And I'm composing, dictating it to them. They're learning it in 5 minutes or less, and then we're recording it with no separation.
But you're also, sorry, I have to jump in.
Yeah.
He's also calling out notes out of blue, not writing them down, not playing on the piano for a second. He's just like, you. A flat to a B, then to a G, back to the A flat, right? And then with the shaker, I want you to grab that and like you're just mouthing it out. And to the outsider, you're like, this makes no sense. And then it all starts to play, and your heart starts going. And I've just never seen anything like this.
It
really is. Yeah.
I will admit that without the trust of someone like you, Jason, and the team to believe that, oh, this will work without the film being cut, to come back into the edit room and for it to work, you know, I didn't know 100% that all of the stuff that we recorded on the set would end up in the film, which it did. Wow. So to me, that's the new way. Immerse yourself in the process and capture the energy of this thing while it's happening. And then that way the music is informing the edit, it's informing.
Driving the edit. It becomes the heartbeat of the film.
Yeah, I want to do some version of this going forward with any of the projects that we work on. It would be amazing.
He said we.
Yeah. We've got it on
You got
tape.
it? Okay.
We
That's
have
all I
got
wanted to
that
make sure.
commitment. Is that your little instrument that you play over there that she's got? Or
Oh, man.
do you have that? Yeah.
Over there.
Can we get that up here? A little bit?
Wow.
I know.
Pete's
I
gonna
asked
scream
him
around.
before. Don't worry. Do you know a little bit you can show us?
Okay, let's see. So the theme in the film, there are three themes. One is rhythmic and two are melodic. And the rhythmic theme is based on a lot of Afro-Latin percussion that's from the African diaspora. Not to alienate 99% of the people here, but just to explain it a little bit. There's a rhythm that comes from the West African tradition of the diaspora that led to the American shuffle rhythm that is the basis for a lot of the music that we know and love, which is the 2 against the 3, the 2 against the 6. It's a march against a waltz. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3.
Pete, you got it. All right.
So that's happening, and that creates this pressure. So when you create that rhythm, let's try this. Let's everybody clap the two. Yeah. So that rhythmic tension is the basis of how the score came together. It's the obtuse rhythmic logic that keeps repeating that feels wrong, but it actually fits together in this way. So that was just an example.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. Before we go, I have to say you had a wonderful documentary about you called American Symphony, and it was, yes, you saw it, and it was at Telluride, not this year, but last year, and I wound up sitting, I think it was at the Naiad movie, and
that's
you
right,
were sitting, you and your wife were sitting right behind me and my wife through that movie, which you didn't score. It was Alexander Desplat. And I kept hearing all through it. You were doing the score of a movie you'd never seen. Music is in your head all day long, isn't
Sorry,
it?
I have to share something.
Okay.
John is something that I've never heard of or experienced. You've heard of photographic memory. John genuinely has a photographic memory for sound. And we needed to add a little bit of piano to the movie, and we showed John the entire movie in one sitting, and then he sat down on a piano, and we started to play a scene back. I said, "Do you need to see it a few times?" He goes, "No." And as the movie is playing, he starts playing back to the scene, which has all kinds of complicated edits and pauses and dialogue moves and things like that, and he plays back to the entire film from one viewing, because he has a photographic memory for sound, and he can remember after one sitting every rhythmic beat down to like the most infinitesimally small beat.
Yeah, I think everybody could do it. if it's just like a muscle, you know, you work on it. I've been playing since I was a kid, you know.
It's amazing. Well, keep playing. Keep on playing.
It's like,
Amazing movie. Saturday night, let's thank Jason Reitman, Jon Batiste.